Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of PAOK Talk. We are your hosts, Angelo and Jono. Jono, it's been a while. How have you been?
Hey Angela, yeah, I've been well, doing good. Just we have a lot to talk about. Like you said, it's been a while, and there's lots of stuff that's happened in terms of transfers and players coming in and out. So I'm excited for today's show.
Yeah. Looking forward to it too. I know there hasn't been that many games or any games since we last spoke. But as you mentioned, we've had the draw, we've had the transfers. So let's get right into it. The first topic, I want to talk about is about Vierinha, and obviously with him announcing that he's leaving. What are your thoughts about that and how both sides handled his exit?
Well, let me just say, like, first of all, as a fan, it's disappointing to see a player like that go. He's been part of PAOK for so long. His first stint, he was probably our first star player in a long time. I mean, we had a dark period there from kind of like '06, '07 to, '08, '09, and he was our first star player, gave the fans real hope and was part of that team, that really good team that we mentioned, I think, last week or our last show. That was Champions League quality, probably.
Right.
So so he's been part of the club for so long. He's come back. He's led us to a historic undefeated double, won us the league for the first time in 30 odd years. So it's sad to see him go, just on a purely like on a fan basis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of whether he should have stayed, I mean, I think I would have liked for him to have stayed. I'm speaking like last season as it was playing out. I wanted him to stay. I think most wanted him to stay. But the way the negotiations played out, as soon as we hit preseason and he wasn't there, I was like, well, that's it for him. I just thought that you can't miss a preseason, and as the captain, which he is, and then
Right.
come like at the end of preseason or during, we had our Champions League games, we had stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought once all that happened, he knocked back a contract offer around the playoffs time, reportedly holding out for more money. Obviously, everything we read is secondhand, and since he officially announced the other day that he's not coming back, I've read conflicting things that kind of contradict what was said, back in July. So it's hard to know, how much was offered and all that sort of thing. But
Right.
once we finished the playoffs and we kind of got a week or two into preseason, and he was a no-show, hadn't re-signed, I was happy for him to not re-sign. But big picture, I wanted him to stay. How it was handled, I mean, I don't know. It's Greece. These things unfortunately seem to happen. I don't think you would see other countries and other captains like there wouldn't be radio silence for like 2 months like
Right.
there was. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it probably could have been handled better by both sides. I think both sides probably made mistakes in negotiations, but I mean, it is what it is, and I think we move on. Were you happy with how it was handled by the club side, first of all?
I think both sides handled it wrong. I don't know what the numbers were exactly, but it seems like Vierinha had in his camp had his eyes set on one number. PAOK had their eyes set on another number. So it's disappointing that they couldn't kind of come together, especially if if PAOK came out and said it's a 1 year deal. This is gonna be the last season, kind of like a farewell tour, like a lot of the teams in America do stuff for different sports, wherever they'll kind of announce it's just a farewell tour, something like that. But I mean, it seems like Vierinha had his mind set on a certain number, and PAOK didn't even come close to that. So I kind of blame both sides for it not working. You mentioned he's kind of like a hero with PAOK, and he's kind of a legend. He was one of our big players. Then he went to Germany for a big fee. He was the captain of Portugal for a couple games. He's obviously a big name. And he not only is a big name, but he helped us win that title. He's helped us win a couple cups. So obviously I'm very disappointed in seeing him go. But in a business standpoint, you have to, if you're the team and you're the club, you have to set a point that you're willing to go, and you can't cross it. And it's easy for me to sit back and say, oh, if Vierinha wanted to stay, he would have stayed for less money. I'm not saying that because, money is is a big deal for some people. Others may have said, okay, but then you could look at the other side. PAOK, they could have owed him for everything he's done for the club. So I could see it both sides. So I'm gonna put the 50-50 fault for both sides. Would you kind of say that's fair?
I think so. Look, I mean, again, it's without knowing the specifics on the numbers. So it's rumored that initially he still wanted over $1 million, which is clear. He was on a big contract. I think he was one of the highest earning players.
Right.
And given his age and his history, and then also COVID, right? So I think Bale kind of made a stand that every player that they're renewing, they don't want any contract over €1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why guys like Stock and Vern Bloom, they were on quite big contracts. So they, made an effort to release those players and get the contracts off the book. So,
right.
I mean, from that standpoint, I feel like maybe he was being a little bit, not selfish, but just his judgment was a bit clouded by, he's probably worth that to Bulk in terms of what he's given us over the years.
Right.
But in the current climate, it was just unrealistic. So, but again, without knowing specific numbers, I don't feel right kind of condemning him for asking for $1 million or whatever the number was.
So say it was real quick. Say it was $1 million, right? And we failed to make the Champions League group stage, and we failed to make the Europa League group stage, and we don't get ticket sales. Then financially, that'd be a bad deal, right?
Yeah, of course, and it wasn't like they were renewing other players for $1 million. So there are players on the team that still have contracts over $1 million because they have contracts that they signed a year or two ago.
Right.
The issue was that Vierinha was coming out of contract,
mm-hmm.
so they weren't every player they were renegotiating with was not getting over $1 million. So whether that played a role, and he's player A, B, and C is getting 1.2, 1.3, or whatever it may be. So why shouldn't I? Look, I don't know. I'm just I'm purely speculating. Yeah, obviously, yeah, you're right. It would have been a disaster had that happened. So
that's why I think it was a financial, with COVID, right? If COVID wasn't around, then I think maybe they would have spent a little bit more money because they would have ticket sales. They could sell merchandise, at more merchandise. People be able to go to stadiums, get stuff. So we'll move from one captain to another, and Pelkas,
Can I just ask you before we move on from Vierinha? Do you think he wouldn't have been a starter, I don't think. Do you think he would have been helpful on field off the bench this season? Or do you think, as you described earlier, it would have been more a farewell tour? Do you think he had something to offer on the pitch?
No, not in Europe or against the top four teams. No, I think he'd be a player that, rotational player that could come on in the last 15 minutes if you need a goal. I don't think that he's had much, especially since that injury that he had a couple years ago.
Okay. Fair enough.
What do you think?
I think maybe off the bench it would have been handy. I think though the formation we play, he would have had to play in attack. I don't think he could have physically played as a wing back, playing the whole right or left side. So I think he would have had to be one of the attacking wingers, like one of the front three.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I don't know. It's because he barely played in the playoffs too. He had an injury and then he wasn't really used.
Right.
So I haven't seen him for a while as well. And coming off that long injury layoff last season, maybe more time he would have been, better. He still has quality. I think he would have been somewhat useful off the bench. I think so. But look, I don't think it's a huge loss. But I think he would have had some use.
Yeah, I think it's more of an emotional loss for the team and for as a captain for leaving. I think that he could have maybe brought the team more together. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen down the road, right? In Europe and in the league. But if something does come up, especially now that we got rid of Pelkas, another leader in the locker room, it would have been nice to have someone of Vierinha's stature in there. So now other players are going to have to fill in the role, like a Varela or a Schwab, who's new, but we've already touched on his leadership capabilities. I don't think Giannoulis is someone that could do that. I mean, but we'll see. There's always someone that has to step up.
Of course, absolutely.
So let's move on to Pelkas, who joined Fenerbahce on about a week ago on the 5th for about 1.6 million euros. And we did get a 20% resale rate. So what do you think about that transfer?
Yeah, I think it was time for Pelkas to move on. I think, again, he is kind of similar to Limnios, had probably reached his ceiling with PAOK. I mean, in terms of his play, I don't think he was going to get any better. He's at an age where he's kind of entering his peak, so there'll be the improvement won't be as obvious or as drastic if there is any left in him. So I think it's good for him to get out and get a change of scenery, different league, different country, all that sort of thing. In terms of the financial aspect, I mean, for PAOK, you lose another captain. I mean, you just touched on that. So you've lost Vierinha and Belka, so you've kind of lost your two captains, the two leaders. So whether that'll hurt the team, you said someone else, other people will stand up. We'll see that in the long term. But in terms of the transfer fee, I mean, again, I think it's relatively fair. The guy is entering the last year of his contract, didn't want to renew because he wanted to make the move. So, I mean, it's probably he's probably worth a little bit more. But again, you let players get into the final year of the contract, you lose all your negotiating power. So that just goes back to management of your squad and your contract. So hopefully Yanulis, who's in his second last year, will get renewed so we avoid a similar situation down the road. But I mean, I think it's fair. I think it's a good move for all parties. Do you think him leaving is going to hurt us on field?
For me, it's been, especially lately, it's been hot or cold. He's always that spark that can, change a game, and we saw that in Europe a little bit, and we saw that today for the national team when he came on. Him and Fortunis, the game kind of changed. He's a quick player. I don't think he's someone that day in and day out could change a game. It's more of a, if he's hot, he's hot. If it's cold, he's kind of non-existent. But he was a good leader. He lived and died for PAOK. He was, obviously a very important figure. I think that we could have possibly gotten more for him, but like you said, he was in his last year, so that definitely has definitely played a part in it. But what other team that is vying for the Champions League, their number 10 would go for only $1.5 million. That's my only thing, right? Is if it was someone, if it was a bigger club, if we're trying to be a big club, we can't be selling our number 10 for $1.5 million, even if it is in the last year, right? If we knew Fenerbahce wanted him, then we should have. And we don't know. Maybe we did. Maybe the price they offered was 1, and then we got it up to 1.6, right? But I think for us, we're still in that small club mentality, and we need to get out of that, I think. And when I say we, I mean the club. Obviously not the fans, but the club itself. If we're selling our captain, we're selling our number 10. It needs to be for more than $1.5 million. I mean that's the bottom line is. And I think someone in the forum said it too, is we have a small club mentality. We give away people on the cheap, right? We're never going to be making money that way. We're only going to be making money if we qualify for the group stages. We need to come up with a plan and, come up with a number and be firm with it. That's how many other teams that were on the verge of Champions League would sell their captain for 1.5, that or captain at number 10. That's mine, and I keep going back to that, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a fair point, because I think if it was an isolated incident, say the Belka, say the Limnios, but it's not isolated, it's a common theme, and you're right, PAOK has improved, has come on in strides and leaps and bounds under Savidis, but one thing that we're yet to improve, like you said, is when it comes to selling and buying, well, not necessarily buying, but more selling players, and how we manage our squad and the contract situation and all that sort of thing. Like, you just wouldn't see it happen at bigger teams. It does happen, but it's not a constant thing. So, like, Olympiacos last season lost Omar on a free transfer, right? It was their captain. It does happen, but it's isolated, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not like it's a thing every summer you're losing 1, 2, 3 players on the cheap. So I do agree, it's something that the administration, the technical director, everyone needs to look at. Now, not the issue, but part of that is that, we've had 3 technical directors in 3 seasons. So again, lack of stability off field, these sort of things can happen, right? One technical director signs Limnios, someone else comes in, doesn't rate him as highly, puts his contract, renegotiations on the back burner. All of a sudden, we're in the situation we're in this year. So stability off field, in terms of positions like your technical director, is key, I think, to this. And yeah, as you said, I think that will help us take those steps to be a big club and have that big club mentality where we aren't losing players for peanuts, basically.
Yeah, and it's automatically we're going into the kind of mindset of, all right, well, when's Solis going to leave, right? When's Yanuli going to leave? How much are we going to get for them, right? We're not a feeder team anymore, right? If we want to be a big club, we're not a team that's just going to be selling out our young stars. We're going to need to keep a couple to become relevant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just going to say I agree, but I think also we need to keep. I mean, like Olympiacos does it too, but they just sell their players. I mean, they've kind of mastered this craft of, like selling and buying. Selling players at like such a high price, and players are always going to want to leave Greece, right? Young players, that's
right.
Natural, right? It happens across the league. You're not a destination league, unfortunately, in Europe, but it's just getting, it's getting a good price, right? It's getting something that can set you up, and you can then go buy a couple players and replace them. Because we've had quite a big overhaul this year. Like, we've lost 3 or 4 of our starters from last season in this transfer window, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I agree with you. So let's talk about who is here, right? We signed Thomas Merg, the Austrian, from Rapid Vienna. What do you think about that deal?
It's interesting that we've signed 2 players from Austria, so I'm wondering if Rebe, our new technical director, obviously has links into that type of market. We obviously signed Čolak too from Croatia, so kind of that that Central Europe,
right?
That Central European market. Look, honestly, I haven't seen him play. He's obviously a Pelkas replacement. I also heard that Ferreira gave the okay for Pelkas to go, knowing that Merg was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously Ferreira knows the player and is confident that he can play a similar role, or hopefully a better role than Pelkas did. So I mean, it's good to sign another winger. Basically, we were lacking a little bit in that position, and Pelkas, although was playing there, we know he's a natural winger. He was doing a serviceable job, but I think it'll be good to have a natural wide player come in along with Zivkovic, and hopefully they can create quite a bit. But yeah, I honestly haven't seen much of him. Have you seen more of him?
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, time will tell. I haven't really studied his film that much. But even if you did study his film, what he did over there is not guaranteed what he's going to do here, right? So, but looking at his numbers, he's had for Rapid Vienna, he had in 163 appearances, he had 35 goals. Not sure his assist totals, but so he kind of has a knack for goal. He had 5 goals last season in 21 games. So I guess we'll see. I think the connection with Schwab was another big reason why we got him. He's on a 4-year contract. He's only 25 years old. So I think it's a solid move. We'll see what happens. If they'll play this upcoming week, or if we're gonna kind of bring him in slow, like teams in Greece usually do. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Right, I mean, we get someone and then they don't usually. This year has been different, but in the years past we've gotten someone and then they take 2 weeks to make their debut. But I think this year we've been quicker with our debuts. I think because of everything that's going on, we need players. So hopefully he should be able to play this weekend versus Ike.
It'll be interesting to see if he starts that because you make a good point. Managers tend to not to like to throw players in. He, like Čolak, he has played this season, so he's going to be match fit. But Ike away, whether Ferreira deemed it's a tricky game to debut in. Right. That'll be interesting to see what he does because I mean you've brought him in to replace a starter, so logically he should probably start. But
yeah, well we saw what happened with Čolak in the Champions League game, right?
Yeah, he did start against Volos though, which was the big game,
Yeah. That's the $30 million game, 30 million gyro game.
Hey man, you win away at Volos. Not many teams have done that. Have Barca ever gone to Volos and won? Have United?
That's right.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. So yeah, so we'll see what we'll see what happens with him. I'm hoping for the best. I'm confident in the technical director and Ferreira's I guess opinion on Merg, obviously because he was one of his he okayed it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. On the just on our transfer window on the whole, Angelo, what are your thoughts? Like we just touched on before that we've lost, 3 or 4 kind of key pillars or starters from last season: Belgas, Limnos, Vierinha, and Akbon, right? So that's 4 guys that were, starters for the most part. What do you think? Have we done a good job replacing them? Are you confident heading into this season that we've done a good job?
I think we've downgraded, not too much, but I think we've downgraded. I think the players that we lost outweigh the players that we gained, but we also have to look at what are our goals for this upcoming season. People say that our goal was to make Europe, to make the group stages of Europe, and we accomplished that, right? But if our goal is to win a title in Greece, I don't think the transfers that were brought in are good enough to help us achieve that goal. I think Olympiacos is a lot better, and they've brought in way better transfers than us. I mean, they're obviously playing in the group stages Champions League, so they have more to play for. But in a year where we keep bringing this up, where second place doesn't get a Champions League spot or a Europa League spot, I say they were smart transfers, especially for what our goals. The front office probably thinking, all right, let's just finish second or third. If we could maybe get out of the group stages in the Europa League, that'd be a bonus. And then we'll see what happens next year when we're in the Conference League. But I think if we were looking for a title race, then I would say it was a failed transfer window. We gave up a lot more. Would you agree with that? Would you disagree?
Well, I mean, I would argue that in terms of whether we've downgraded, I think it's still too early to tell. I mean, a lot of these players have only played a couple games, and we know that it can take, a couple weeks to kind of become ingrained with the team and understand the system and your teammates and all that. So I think it's still too early to tell in terms of if what we've bought in is better than what we've sold.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say, and I guess, this kind of links into the next thing we're going to say, it depends on what our goal is. Are we going for a title? Are we just satisfied with, not satisfied, but
right, yeah,
kind of, we're in Europe, all right, we're going to try, we're going to hopefully qualify from the group stage. But I would argue that Olympiacos has also probably weakened on last season, but they're still, I do agree, on paper, they're probably still ahead of us. But I think they have weakened. Like, Tsimikas went out, They brought in that guy. His name slips me from Wolves at the moment, on loan. So I mean, I saw him a little bit in the Premier League. He's a good player, but I think on the whole, Olympiacos have weakened a little bit as well. But yeah, I think time will tell. But yeah, well, that kind of feeds into the Super League and what you think. What are your expectations of PAOK this season? Do you want us competing for the title?
I mean, so. Obviously, right, I want them competing for a title, right? But if you held a gun to my head, I think that we wouldn't be competing for a title. What my goal will be is by the time the playoffs come, we're within striking distance. I think that's all we can ask for, right? Maybe 6 points, a 6-point differential from now from when we enter the playoff round. I think that would be a successful year. If we go into the playoffs and Olympiacos is 15 points ahead, 10 to 20 points ahead, I think it'd be, even if we finish second, I just think that'd be kind of a disappointment. We won our first league title a couple seasons ago. We don't want to fall back into having Olympiacos start renew the dynasty, right? We want to be thereabouts. This playoff, we weren't really thereabouts, right? We kind of knew going into it that Olympiacos was going to win it. This last one, so that would be my goal. I think realistic, we could finish second. Now I don't see us finishing third unless things go for things take a headed south. But I think a second place finish being within striking distance going into the playoffs would be a successful year in the Super League.
Yeah, that's fair. And we did kind of touch on this last episode. I mean, I agree. That's probably what I realistically want as well. I want to be within striking distance and just make it a competitive league season. But in terms of where we'll finish, I think I did mention this last episode too, where I think I could be anywhere from, optimistically first, but even third. I think Ajax made some good moves in the transfer window,
Right.
and they've looked good. So it's a big game coming up. But yeah, it wouldn't honestly shock me, given the turnover that we've had in our squad, if we ended up third. And like, there's not a massive difference between second and third, as you touched on with the European spots.
There's not, but in optics there is, right? I mean, we don't want to be known as the third best team in the Greek league, right?
No, of course not. Of course not. And what I was going to say, it's more about as long as the club is on the same page, right? So as long as if we end up third, a couple points behind that it's not rip up the plan and start pointing the finger. As long as we're all on the same page, which appears to be the case, right? They've brought in younger players. When I say younger, I mean guys that are kind of 23 to 25,
right,
26. They haven't brought in Svab's probably the only one just off the top of my head that's like a seasoned professional.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the others aren't, but you get what I'm saying. That these other guys, your Cholaks, your Mergs, they still have a lot of good football in front of them. So as long as everyone's on the same page, stability is the key. I think it's okay. But yeah, 1 to 3, I think. But yeah, I want second as well, and I want to be competing for the title as deep as possible.
If you're giving me the option right now to fast forward and simulate going into the playoffs, only 6 points behind the leader, whether it's in second or third place, I'm taking it.
Yep.
Would you?
I'm with you there. I'm hopeful that we stay in touch, and I mean, I don't know. We need to see more games, but scoring's going to be our issue. I'm sure this will be a reoccurring topic on our podcast throughout the season. But yeah, that'll be the issue. But yeah, no, that's what I'm hoping for. And I guess the proof will be in the pudding. We just need to watch a few more games and see how it all plays out.
Right. All right, and then we have the Europa League, which we are again a part of. I woke up for the draw. Were you watching the draw live?
I wasn't watching it live. I was working on some assignments for university.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't catch it live.
Yeah, I was watching it live. Yeah, for me it was about 7:00 in the morning, and it was nerve-wracking because the way they do it is so weird. And if two teams from the same country cannot play on the same days, so it's like A through. It's weird. It's not even obviously in the same group, but it was just so weird how they did it. There's so many, just because a team got drawn when it was supposed to be in Pot A doesn't mean that they were in Group A, right? It was just so weird. So I really never knew who was going in Group E. So we'll talk about our group first. PSV Eindhoven, PAOK Granada, and Omonia. Just looking over real quickly, we don't have to get into discussions about the teams deep. We could do that when we do our previews for those games, right? The first game is on October 22nd, so 10 days from now. So just real quick, looking at the group, how do you see it? Do you see us advancing? Do you think that we could have gotten an easier group, harder group? How do you think?
I think it's quite evenly matched group, to be honest. I probably could have been easier. It could have been harder as well. I mean, we spoke about this last episode where there were quite a few tricky teams in Pot 3.
Mm-hmm.
So getting Granada, a Spanish team, they're not a big name in terms of European football, but they're still a Spanish team, and they've come 6th or 7th in Spain. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Right.
So, I mean, they're going to be tricky. I think it just comes down to it's absolutely paramount that you get 6 points against Omonia. That's just not negotiable. Have to win both those games, and then you can kind of build your campaign from there, right? So they say 10 points is the total to aim for, to qualify from the group. So I think you need your 6 against Omonia, and then you look at the other 4 games as opportunities to pick up 4 more points and hopefully see yourself through. But I think it's very evenly matched. Do you agree with that, or do you think there's a clear standout?
No, I think if we could finish anywhere from first to fourth, or I would say second to fourth, really. If we finish fourth, there's a lot of issues, but I could see it, right? Like you said, I think it could have been a lot harder, but it could have been a lot easier. I mean, just looking at the groups, We have Group A is Roma, Young Boys, Cluj, Sofia. I mean, if we were the second one in that instead of Young Boys, that's an easy group, right? Cluj and Ceska Sofia. And then there's this group too, the one that I was looking at: Arsenal, Rapid Vienna, Molde, and Dundalk. Right? If we were in that group, that's one that I'd say we needed to get out of. Right? But then, you have which group was it? I was looking at. It's really tough. Oh, you have Napoli, Real Sociedad, AZ, and Rijeka. Right? I mean, that's a tough group. Tricky group.
Absolutely.
Even Ike's group is pretty tricky, right? With Braga, Leicester, Ike, and Zorga. And then this one's the Group H, I think, is the group of death. It's, Celtic, Sparta Prague, Milan, and Lille.
In terms of names, absolutely.
Right. I think that's the group of death. The reason I went real quick over was I think it's it could have been easier, it could have been harder. Ultimately, I think that I think we got a really good schedule. We opened up with the Monia at home, then we go at Granada in Spain. If we could get 4 points at least in those first two games, I think we're sitting good. The November 5th, the third game, we're home. We're hosting Eindhoven, right? So I think we have a pretty good fixture schedule, and we end hosting Granada and the last match day. So that could be a matchup for second place. And who knows by then if there'll be fans in mid-December or not. But I don't want to get too in depth about the other teams, but I think it could have gone either way. But I'm hoping that we can advance.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And some of those groups that you just ran through are for sure they're definitely tricky. So I think we're happy. I'm happy, with what we have. But yeah, fingers crossed for a good campaign because we haven't had a run. I think Ivic, the 16-17 season, as we previously mentioned, was the last time we came out of the group stage of the Europa League. So it's always good to have European football to look forward to heading into the new year. So fingers crossed that we are able to get out of this group.
So give me an order. Who's going to finish first, second, third, and fourth in the group, and we'll look back on December 10th and see if we were right or not.
Well, I tend to be conservative when it comes to predictions, so I think I'll go PSV as the biggest name to top the group, PAOK second, Granada third, and Omonia last. Do you see anything different?
I see nothing different. I think I think it's going to come down to that last game. I could see Granada maybe being ahead 1 or 2 points going into that last game, and them kind of playing for a tie and us playing for a win. I could see
that scares me. It
having does, but I think
having to win.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, but I think with our European kind of games this year that we already had, I think we'd fit well in that game, right? We could look back on our game versus Benfica, look back at Besiktas. We're not going to look at the Krasnodar game, but we could say that it's something that can be done.
Well, yeah, look, it's convenient that we don't look at the Krasnodar game because, I don't know. I'm not full of confidence because against Besiktas and Benfica, those teams wanted to win, whereas if we're going into that last game with Granada just needing a draw, but, obviously there's 5 games to be played before we get to that stage, so we don't know what shape we're going to be in, what they're going to be in, so we'll wait for the predictions, but the games do come thick and fast. I think after this international break, there's consecutive European games because of obviously COVID. The start of the season's been delayed, so we'll have quite a lot to talk about and look forward to.
Yeah, 3 straight weeks. You have October 22nd, October 29th, and then November 5th. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep. Yeah, so we'll have heaps to talk about and heaps of European football to watch as well as the league action, obviously.
Right. So roughly in 4 weeks, we'll know pretty much where we stand.
So that's going to be another thing to balance, right? Is like the squad is rotating, the squad is fatigue, so it's going to add a different element this season for sure. Right.
I think, is there any final topics you want to touch on? I think we went over pretty much everything. We have the Ike matchup this weekend. I think that we're going to be doing a preview on that, so I don't want to get too in depth onto that. But we are going to Athens for that game. Real quickly, what's the key to that game? Do you think?
I think that game will suit us because obviously away to Ajax. So I think keeping tight defensively, which I think we can do. But yeah, I mean, I'll save obviously all the analysis for the next game. But yeah, I think making sure that we don't concede an early goal is always key in those derby games, so you can kind of go into the second half with it, with it still in the balance.
Would you be happy with the draw?
Yes, I wouldn't.
Not satisfied, but would you be happy?
I wouldn't be happy, but I'd be satisfied. That's a good way to put it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna criticize if we come out of there with a point. I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on the same boat because I think the week after we play Olympiacos at home. Right.
Yeah, and that would be the one that. Well, I mean,
we need to win that one. I think.
Well, you need 4 points, I think, from those two games.
Right.
So, however they come, but I guess beating Olympiacos means you also deprive them of 3 points. It's kind of like a 6 point swing.
That's why I think that game is more important.
Hey, you know what? What if we win both and we have 6 points from those two games? What about then?
Then I'll be one happy guy.
Then there'll be drinks all around, and we'll be sending someone over to turn you onto your side so you don't choke on your vomit.
There you go, and there won't be any need for me to pick on people on the forums anymore.
Yeah, you're a bit of a bully, man. You gotta chill out.
I bully a lot of people on the forums, but that's my entertainment. All right, John. Well, thank you for stopping by. Hopefully next time hopefully episode 8 comes right around the Ike game before. We'll do a little quick preview. We may have a special guest on. And no, it's not Paskalakis because he won't come on. He said everyone's gonna hate him if he comes on. So sorry, Pas. I mean, the invite's always there, but I don't know if he has a weird voice or something, but he won't do it. Yeah, so we're looking forward to getting the next episode done. Thank you all for listening. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel, share the video as much as possible, and put down in the comments, message us where we did right, what we needed to improve, what else we could talk about, and we'll talk to you guys soon.